few months ago, the realization started to hit me that I'm coming to the end of my 4 years at university, and as much as I love the university bubble, I knew I couldn't stay in it forever, and I basically had to go and start finding a graduate job. So I got my act into gear and started sending off my applications, and within 2 weeks, I've been given 2 job offers. Today's video is going to be part of a bit of a mini-series dedicated to graduate job hunting. Because although I got 2 job offers very quickly, when I tell you I was clueless at the start of the process, like I really knew nothing. So I do know what a minefield it can be, and I basically want to share my newfound knowledge with you and sort of create a guide that I wish I had when I was applying to graduate roles. There's way too much for me to put all into one video, so I'm going to split the information up into 2 or potentially even 3 videos over the course of the next few weeks. But this particular video is all dedicated to organising your job search, and I think the most obvious place to start is where to look for jobs. So firstly, just a note, there are generally sort of 3 routes you can take after university. You can go into a graduate scheme, a graduate job, or some sort of internship, whether that's either paid or unpaid. But in this video, I am just going to be focusing on graduate roles, not graduate schemes. So if that's what you're interested in, then keep on watching just in case you change your mind in the future. But just know that I'm not going to be focusing on graduate schemes or internships in this video. Firstly, I want you to know that you're not alone if you're feeling overwhelmed by having to find a graduate job whilst you're still studying. This alone is enough to stress you out, but one thing I found very stressful when I was finding a job is constantly being bombarded with job adverts. So for this reason, I would recommend that you narrow down the places you're searching for graduate roles on to maybe just 3 or 4, or potentially even less if you are feeling really overwhelmed by the process. Personally, I decided to use Google, my uni's career website, and LinkedIn. And then as well as actively searching for jobs, I did decide to upload my CV to a job board called CV Library as well. There are definitely benefits to using a job board. The top 2 I would really say are firstly that you upload it and then you sit back and sort of wait for people to contact you. And then also because of this, you're probably more likely to get more interviews more quickly, if that sort of makes sense. But there are also drawbacks to this. The biggest one I'd say is being constantly bombarded, which to start with was a little bit of an ego boost, but I'd put in that I wanted to work within marketing specifically, and I soon realised I was being bombarded with employers from other sectors like recruitment that I just was not interested in. So another downside of using a job board is that even though you put in what industry you want to work in, you have sort of less control in filtering through the jobs until you then sort of like turn down an interview. But in the process, you're being bombarded by people. So don't get me wrong, they are useful, especially if you do need a job sort of straight away. But if you're feeling overwhelmed, I probably wouldn't recommend putting your CV on a job board right at the start of the process. Also, another tangent, but I said about using LinkedIn, which is really, really great. But one thing I would also recommend not doing right at the start, especially if you feel overwhelmed, is signing up to their job alerts, because you will get bombarded with emails daily. And to me, that sort of felt like I was fighting a bit of a losing battle, because I was filtering through jobs every day, and yet I was still getting emailed like tons of other jobs that I could be applying for. So leading on from this, once you've decided where you're going to look for jobs, you need to find a system of filtering through all the jobs that are on that website. So the very first thing I'd say to do is to sit down and list all of your skills and all of your experience. And then once you've done that, you can start deciding on search terms. When I first started looking for jobs, I used very general words like marketing or social media, purely because I didn't know exactly what search terms to use. But I found this actually just added to my overwhelm, because it brought up absolutely every single job in that sector, from unpaid internships to managerial roles, and yeah, that just wasn't useful at all. Having said this, I would say when you first start to do one general search term using sort of a keyword from your industry. So for example, for me, it could be social media, and then filtering through and seeing what job titles regularly come up for jobs that you are experienced enough to be able to do. And then from there, you can then start searching with that specific job title. Obviously, as you go through the process, you can expand the number of job title searches that you're using. But to start off with, it's just really useful to have one specific search term. And before I move on to the next point, it's just worth noting as well that unless you're applying for a graduate scheme, The word graduate is not going to be in the job title, which I absolutely did not realise. I thought that all graduate jobs would have the word graduate in, so another search term I used when I first looked for jobs was graduate, and I was surprised when nothing came up. I thought I just missed all of the graduate roles. But basically it's up to you to filter through the job descriptions and just to see if you need a degree for that particular role. So hopefully by this point you're going to have a whole list of potential jobs that you could apply for based on what you're qualified enough to do. So if you haven't already, then this is a really good stage to sit down and decide what your top priorities are in a job, because it's going to help you to narrow down your search even further. I think it's so easy to get into the mindset of thinking you have to apply to everything that you're qualified for. And don't get me wrong, I understand that a lot of people need a job straight away for financial reasons. But if you have a bit more time to decide on a job, then please just remember that you have to actually go into work and do that job every single day. So it's so important that it satisfies your top priorities. Also, we all only have 24 hours in a day, right? So if you're applying to every single job, you're not going to be putting as much effort into every application, and basically you may as well be putting more effort into less applications and doing them better, because you're going to have more chance then of getting those roles you're actually applying to. Otherwise, it's just a little bit of a waste of time. Moving on to how I actually visually organised my job search. I started off by just saving the jobs on the website I was finding them on. So on LinkedIn or in Google, you can press a little bookmark symbol and it will just save the job on that website. But I found that I wasn't applying to the job straight away, and I also wasn't coming back to the website and looking at my saved jobs. So it was just a little bit of a waste of time. So once again, I ended up turning to Notion to help me organise my life. So I found just a random example of a job from LinkedIn just so I can use it to show you how I organise my job search using Notion. So once I'd started finding jobs I wanted to apply to, I went onto Notion and made a board view database. And I made 3 columns, a to-do column, an in progress column, and a complete column. And then if you press the dash key and you type in page, you can create a page in which you can write down all the key job details. And I'll discuss this in a video later on, but it's basically really important so that you can tailor your application to the specific job role. One thing I also really wish I'd have written down is the salary, because I found that interview stages, employers would ask your salary expectation, and by this stage, the job advert had usually been removed. And I found that I was sometimes saying my salary expectation was lower than what the job was actually advertised as paying. But I didn't know this until after the interview. But anyway, once you've created this page with all of the information on, you can then move it between the 3 columns. But the really key thing to do is to then go to the job advert and find the deadline, and to put the deadline into your personal calendar. However, I always put the deadline as being 3 days earlier than the official deadline, just to make sure that I got it in time. Graduating and finding a new job is an incredibly stressful period, so please don't put yourself down if you're struggling right now. But I do hope this video has helped you in starting the process of finding a graduate job. As I said, the video is going to be part of a short series all about finding graduate roles. So do make sure to subscribe so that you don't miss the other parts, and comment if there's any other information you'd like to know about graduate job hunting. Thank you for watching and have a lovely week.